Talk and Rock Radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. It was 2013 that I first met Terry Manning. I'd always heard about him, but that was the first time I met him in person, and I learned all about his accomplishments as a musician, a record producer, and talent as a songwriter. We immediately hit it off, and he accepted the opportunity of being in one of our Border Legends of El Paso concerts that year. That was 2013, and another one in 2016. I had the distinct opportunity to play music with him, hang socially, and do a couple of podcasts together, but had not yet had the opportunity to see him work his magic in a studio. We all had come out of a 2-year COVID dry spell. That is, until April of 2022. That afternoon, I received a call from Terry, and he asked me if I wanted to come out to Sonic Ranch Studios in Tornillo, Texas, to observe a group that he was recording from Wisconsin. I said, it sounds like fun. I jumped in the car and headed to Sonic Ranch, and I'd been looking forward to seeing the new studio that Tony had built out there called Big Blue. Today's show on Talk and Rock Radio is about that day at Sonic Ranch. Joining me today is Terry Manning, and from Madison, Wisconsin, we have Erik Kjelland and Cory of the group The Mascot Theory.
Wonderful.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Talk and Rock Radio. It's great to have you all with us today. How's it going, Erik?
Fantastic.
Cory, you looking good, man? Terry? Well, Terry always looks good. What can I say, you know?
Thank you kindly. It's one of these filters Erik has on. It makes us look
I need a filter.
Clean cut. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of cool because last week I was recording another TMT, the Manhattan Transfer, and this week I'm doing a show with another TMT, which, I mean, so what is the likelihood of that? You know, that's kind of cool, you know.
I like that, yeah.
Wasn't planned that way, but it certainly worked out that way.
And both great groups. There you go.
Yeah, two great groups.
And, groups should adopt those initials.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I want to start out first by thanking Terry, because on that particular day in 2022, in April of 2022, we were coming out of COVID, and Terry started this project with you guys out at Sonic Ranch. And I want to thank him again for bringing me into the project to watch you guys and do a little video. And I want to thank, Erik for asking me to do this podcast today, because you've got some exciting things down the road. On April 26th, you got the launch of your new album. It's all about a really great album called Every Sign of Life. So let's jump into that. The first question I want to ask you guys is, how, Erik and Cory, how does a group from Madison, Wisconsin, that was kind of tagged as being a folk rock band, harkens to become a vintage 70s and 80s Texas rock group, man?
I think as I was writing the songs for this album, some of it was during the pandemic, kind of coming out of that. We knew that we were going to be doing another album. Well, we hoped we were going to be doing another album if things returned to somewhat normal after all of that. But the songs tended to, every time I'd have song and I'd bring it to the fellas to start playing, we kind of started thinking, well, this one feels a little Tom Petty, or this one feels a little ZZ Top, or so we kind of had these references for a lot of these songs, and it just kind of ended up that way. Meantime, I'd been playing acoustic in this band for the first 10 years, and I was just kind of getting a little bored with it and thinking, I'm going to switch to maybe electric, and then we bring in this guy. He joined the band right after the pandemic, or during, I can't remember exactly.
I think it was the first year after things started.
Yeah.
Like that year that things started kind of opening up, I got a call from Erik saying, hey, how's your schedule looking? Are you possibly interested in
Yeah.
trying out. I had to do a formal tryout for the group.
He already had it in the bag as soon as he showed up. But the thing that was amazing is, and we've known Cory for years. The other guys in the band have played with Cory and his other band in the past, so we knew him really well. We were already really good friends, which was really easy to bring him in. But his skill set and his guitar playing lent itself to that classic rock sound. I mean, it's just, he can pull off all that stuff. And so as we started getting together and rehearsing these songs, we realized, I think we're about to make a rock and roll album, and that's what our next live shows are going to end up being. It's a lot less of the acoustical stuff and a little bit more leaning into that rock and roll and the energy. We've always had the energy with live shows. This kind of just escalated a little bit, and it just perfectly went right along with these songs that we had.
Well, not many can do a vintage rock album, right, Terry?
It is. I don't know of many groups out there that could do that, because what it takes is very good songs that are classic. And when I say classic, I mean of any era, not the 70s and 80s or 90s or 2000 whatevers, but almost any era. A good song is a good song whenever it is. So, of course, you can lean more towards style with instrumentation and the way you play it. But there just aren't a lot of people doing that. Tom Petty died not too long back, sadly. He had his Heartbreakers and Mudcrutch as well that he toured with, and would lean into that area, but there aren't a whole lot who do that. So it just takes, I forgot the question, I'm just talking now, but it just takes a special group of people who can play several styles, because rock and roll was part blues, part country, part heavy, part soft and acoustic. Rock and roll encompassed so many things. So you need a group of people, and in this case, they've got it, who can play in many styles. Sort of not an everyman's kind of can do anything when it's called upon. And each player in the band is really good at what they do. The songs, mostly, I'm sure, if not all, written by Erik. Extremely good songs. Every song has a meaning. Every song has a melody. You just don't hear a lot of that these days. So we get in there to record, and I'm thinking, wow, this is like the 70s. This is like the 80s. This is like the 90s. This is like now. And you just try to put it all together.
You know, when I first listened to this group on YouTube, when Terry was telling me about the project coming up, I went in there and previewed some of your videos from the older days. And I see your bass player with a stand-up bass and the pictures and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to be an interesting group to go see, you know? So when I walked into the studio,
bam,
I was first thing I was going to think of was, I'm going to see Terry sitting at the board doing his magic. No, that wasn't the case. I walk in, I introduce myself to the guys, and next thing I know, Terry's in the main room sitting down at a piano.
I'll pick up one good one. And
of course, he plays piano, he plays guitar, he sings. I mean, so he's a man of many talents in so many ways. But
many.
many. So
let's name them all right now.
I walk into the main room and kind of snuck up behind him. He didn't see me, but anyway, he's sitting there playing some syncopated rhythms on one of your songs, and it was called Blowing Smoke Signals. So at this juncture, why don't you guys talk a little bit about that song, the inspiration? Tell us about it.
Sure. I think with that song, it's actually it's been kicking around for a little while in my head. We had done it, rehearsed it a few times before Cory was even on board in the band. We kind of tried it around, but there was just different parts to it. I knew that I had pieces of it and parts that I really wanted to do, but I couldn't quite get it all together. And so it kind of sat on the shelf for a little, and we kind of would rehearse it a little bit, and I'd have an idea and I'd try it out and practice with the guys. And then I would kind of take it back and revise it. Once Cory joined the band, then made it even easier to finish it, because it was like, oh, this is perfect. We got a guy with the chops to just wail on guitar on this song, and you can hear it. And it's just, in fact, the solo section's probably as long as the rest of the song, which is amazing and it's in pieces. And that's the big thing, is that I've never really been into jam band type stuff. I've always been more singer-songwriter orientated. And a lot of that's because I don't play that way either. I'm playing rhythm and I'm ready to get to the next part, the next vocal part or whatever. But with Cory, it's like, and I've told him this before, he reminds me so much of like a David Gilmour, where you forget it's a guitar. It just sounds like it's a melody. It's something you remember, something you can hum. It's not just look at me go really fast or look at me noodle, just for noodle's sake or whatever. And there's some amazing bands that do that stuff. I'm just not into that as much. But when Cory does it, it reminds me of Gilmour-esque stuff where you remember it. And especially with that song, once he got to the solos and the different pieces that we were crafting in it, the different parts, even through the solo section, which is actually very long, as we mentioned, but we have very specific things that are happening in it.
DCG.
So you found it okay? It's easy enough?
Oh, yeah. No problem, yeah.
Where should I play the front? Let's just play the first chorus. I think that's where I would hear it the most, I think. Because everything else has got a lot of... It's more mellow a little bit. And then those kick in with those... I just thought maybe it'd be something in there to
maybe
change it up, but go ahead and play.
Morning song of a brand new day. I'm just going slow, going to the I'm just going slow, going slow.
They got a jam band type thing on stage.
I'm still singing, singing, go.
I
could try, but it's very full.
Yeah.
Especially with the
That's
guitar.
why I thought later in the song, as we've been doing these choruses and they build up a little bit, or maybe it's
piano,
the last
you think?
chorus. I mean, organs or stuff. I just thinking, like, I had this like Skinner jammy kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Just if there was a really full band doing it, this feels like that kind of.
It can't get busy though. It's got to be
just
chorded and rhythmic.
Exactly, almost rhythm guitar like.
Yeah, and that's the.
That's
it was more like
DCG.
A Hammond and a Leslie kind of feel instead of a piano. Not that we need to bring Leslie in but that more of that kind of.
I can do that later too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Without dragging the thing in here and miking it all up.
Talk about your
guitar
parts for that.
I think to what Erik was saying about being in that jam band realm, I think and there's a lot of amazing guitarists that can do it, but when there isn't the structure, there isn't as much responsibility to replicate. You can just kind of go for it and you make it up as you go along. Maybe you'll try it 5 times and you hope you get a good one and you move on. And with this, it was really fun. And I think it was a really good building opportunity and learning opportunity for Erik and I to grow as writers together, because I was able to show him a bunch of ideas, but then we kind of deconstructed and pieced it together and really kind of made it more of a cohesive message through the different parts. And that was, I think, a good growing experience for him and I as musicians, because I'm coming from more of that blues-oriented jam band world, and he's got more of the structure. And so together, I think we were able to really orchestrate a nice movement of music that was very guitar heavy, but it didn't seem unnecessary. And so I think it does have a lot of great structure to it.
Yeah, and it builds.
And it builds with the song. It's got good melody, I think, and man, is it a lot of fun to play live, I'll tell you.
Well, and that's the next part.
this world.
And if you decided you wanted it in that pre-chorus or the one before this, real low, just to get
Well, and that's the next thing I was going to ask you guys. Is that a song that was already in your book, in your performance book? Were you already doing this in your shows, or is this something that you just started doing after you did the recording?
Well, maybe as we were rehearsing it and getting it ready, knowing that we were going to record it, we probably did start doing it live. But for the most part, most of the songs on the album, with the exception of a small handful, were ones that we had not done a whole lot with. And if we were, it's only because we're playing them live because we knew we were getting them ready for the studio. But for the most part, they weren't tried and true songs that we'd been playing forever, with the exception of a couple of the older songs that we redid. But no, that was definitely the plan, was to just work these up. And then as soon as we got back from the recording, hit them really hard. And that was going to be our show for the next 2 years, was playing all these songs.
Yeah.
Throughout this episode, I'm going to be injecting some of the videos that I shot of you guys doing your thing and Terry doing his thing, and some of the comments. I think that kind of adds to the, I don't know, just kind of the storyline of, the making of an album and how it all, comes about and everything. A lot of people don't know the technical aspects of working in a studio. They just think you go in there and do it and knock it out real quick, and that's not always the case. The next cut I want to talk about, one of them that I really like. It's called "I Need You." What was the inspiration of that song?
I think the most obvious to me is my wife. I've got a wife that we've been together since she was 15, I was 16. So we've been together for 3 years now. You can do the math, but a long time. And she's the reason why, I can do anything. And still, a lot of the friends that I used to know that were coming up and were in bands, a lot of them aren't playing in bands anymore. So you start to see that kind of go around. Priorities change. Success or otherwise, it gets a little harder to do things as you start families and things. And so with "I Need You," it was definitely a song that I wrote with her in mind, which a lot of them are. But it was a little more specific, a little bit more, things and coming out of the pandemic. And I'm sure part of it was written during that, or just coming out of that, where everybody's just really isolated and thinking, oh man, is this ever going to get back to whatever normal is that ever going to be a thing again? And it's just, it was a thank you, really, kind of a thanks for being there, and to family and to friends. If you get more generic and back out a little bit, it's just really just in general needing other people. You can't do anything on your own, and you shouldn't have to. You should be able to have some people around you. And I think that was the big thing. Ironically, when I wrote the song, and I did not think it was going to be a Mascot Theory song. It felt a little bit different than some of the other stuff that I had been working on. It didn't have that, this is a Petty song or a Stones or whatever. It was just a little bit different than those. And ballady type songs are always a little bit tricky and nerve wracking to decide when it's a full band song or not. And if you can work it into your live set of music, which, we play live. So how is this song going to go live? Is this going to be the first one cut in a set because it's the slow one or not? And but we just, as I was doing all these different songs, I knew it was a really good song, and it meant a lot to me. And I just trusted the band. And when we brought it to the band, everybody's respectful with it, and we just try it and see what happens. And it worked. And the other thing, we head to the studio and see how that goes. And working with a producer like Terry, we have no idea how any of this stuff was going to go, or if anything was going to change dramatically. We just knew we were going to rehearse as best as we could, and go down there and do the best that we can and be prepared as best as we can. And with that song, it was the same thing. How do we get this song as perfected as possible for the studio and live?
I was going to say it's not a ZZ Top thing. It's not a Petty thing or whatever. But if I had to say, a gun held in my head, what's it like? I would say it's kind of in the McCartney vein, or Billy Joel even maybe, or it's got that soft, sweet, but still rock, very intense and personal feel to it.
I was going to say, what's really nice, Erik, for you to say all those niceties about your wife. Every time you guys have an argument, just tell her to go to this video, and you can remind her of all the nice things you said about her.
I will do that.
It's all documented.
Watching that video. Shut up.
So as he was saying, we got multiple takes of this stuff. We're just playing one of them, and we haven't comped any of them.
I understand, man.
Basically 5.5 days. 5.5 days.
My thoughts are spinning like a turntable. Get out of bed when I am able. These shaky knees are unstable, 'cause I need you. My eyes go blind, it's so severe, like a dirty old broken chandelier. My heart's so heavy when you're not here, 'cause I need you. Day after day, I struggle just to keep the pace. Can you show me the way? 'Cause I need you, I need you. I can't mine diamonds from a pile of bones, sit through the ashes of being alone. But if you're home, just pick up the phone, 'cause I need you. You are the sunlight shining on me. One hit and I'm evergreen. You cover up this misery, 'cause I need you. Day after day, struggle just to keep the pace. Can you show me the way? 'Cause I need you, I need you. Day after day.
Yes,
The
exactly.
Sonic Ranch in Tornillo, Texas is quite a special place, and I've been out there with Terry before, and I think I'd been out there one or two other times before that. But I want you guys to talk about the actual property itself, the facility, the housing, all of that stuff that's part of the package. You don't have to talk about Terry yet, because we're going to get into that in a little while.
Or not, or not.
but I do want you to talk about Sonic Ranch and what the overall experience, as far as what your expectations were, and when you got there, were they the same? Did they change? Talk about that a little bit.
I think just in general, we've recorded, I don't know, 5. This might be our 6th album, 7th album. I can't even remember. We've done a lot, and we've done some live albums too. But the big thing that I've always wanted to do is to take the band and make the album in one shot, in one chunk of time. And that was something we haven't had the luxury of doing. We've recorded a bunch in Madison, a lot of different studios, where it's just really easy to everybody just go to their homes and do their thing at home after the session. And then maybe you come back, and then maybe, oh, I guess we don't need the drummer for the next 3, 4, or 5 days. So you don't need to come to the next session. So it was a little more scattered. We've even recorded down in Nashville before, and that was kind of the same thing. It was, we go down there as a group, we record for 2 days, mostly the rhythm section stuff. And then myself, and back then our guitar player, would fly down, or I would fly down or drive down and go do sessions. And it was just so spread out over months and months and months. And I just really wanted to be able to, because I knew we were rehearsed. I knew that we had our stuff together. And if we could just get in one chunk of time in one specific place, I knew we could knock something out, and it'd be even more magical because we'd all be there together for it. No overdubs after the fact, nothing. Just get it all done in that one session. And the opportunity came up for us to work with Terry, and by Terry's recommendation, Sonic Ranch. And when we looked it up, and I'd heard some other bands that I knew that were down there, and it's like, what an incredible experience to be able to, that focus that I'm talking about, being able to do everything together. It was even better because we're at a place where you literally don't have to go anywhere. The food's there, that's taken care of. We're not staying at a hotel that we have to shuttle people to after a session. And, we just walk across the road and go get in our little, the ranch house where we stayed. So it's just magical. I don't know.
No, I think to that point, that when we got there, obviously we had high expectations of ourselves and what we were hoping to achieve. But you never know how comfortable you're going to feel. And I think that the ease of it is not something that you can really plan for. It just kind of happens naturally. And when we got there, and we're getting shown around, and we're seeing all these different studios, and the awe of how much thought is put into every one of those different studios, all the way to the material that they line the ceilings with. And there's Salvador Dali art everywhere. And just the care and the thought that was put into all of those things made you really feel like you were in a special place. And then to know that we're not thinking about food, we're not thinking about travel, we're not having to go anywhere, but here's a place. They set us up in this awesome, like 5 or 6 bedroom little house that's just like nestled in a pecan farm. And we're like a dusty dirt road walk from our studio. I didn't have to turn an amp off. I didn't have to put a guitar away. I didn't have to wrap a cable. It was just be yourself, be comfortable, and just hope that the magic happens. And I think that was one of our first major pleasant surprises, was when we actually got to sit down and start to talk with Terry about how he wanted us to record. Because as Erik was saying, we've had so many experiences in a lot of different studios. I grew up, my dad had a little studio in the basement. So it was always, if you wanted to record, you weren't taken out of your element or put in a different one. It was just we're just used to this. We're going to put on our headphones. You're going to fiddle with your little knobs, and you're going to get yourself in your little headspace. And we get there and we're like, wait a minute, this room is enormous. and I had already looked through like a 30-page pamphlet of equipment that we got to choose from. There's only one left-handed guitar in that pamphlet, but I sure played the hell out of it. But just getting there and seeing how much thought and effort was put into making it feel creative and comfortable, and the meals. I mean, all the way down to the sauce we got to put on our breakfast burritos. It was great. It was just a pleasant surprise. And so that really lent to us an opportunity to feel comfortable. And then when Terry sat down with us and he's like, you know what, I really want us to not sit in isolated booths with headphones on. I want to give you guys a chance to record this album the way that we used to record. He's like, there's probably not an album that you fell in love with music listening to that wasn't done this way, that I think you guys should do it. And so when Terry said that, and Terry, you could probably speak to this as well, it was just a pleasant surprise for us, because it was then another difference to what we were used to. And it kind of, it gave us that chance to do something new.
One of the things that I was going to say before Terry jumps in on this is what you just said about all of those amenities and everything being taken care of. What a cool thing where you can just walk in and do your job, not have to think about any of those other things, because it's all there for you. You can just launch and get right into your music and into the moment and have fun and do your thing. Right, Terry?
Yes. Tony, who owns and runs the studio, has done an incredible job of making it art friendly, creative friendly. It's now I've owned and run some of the biggest and best known studios in the world myself, Compass Point and Nassau being prime amongst them. And it's probably in the top 3 all-time studios, and I've recorded all over the world in so many countries, so many huge, well-known big places. But I'll tell you, I almost hate to say it in a way, but I think Sonic Ranch is the best studio in the world. I think nothing actually comes close to it, because Tony has thought out so much. He's got 6 or 7 full-size big studios.
There are 8 altogether, I think.
Or 8, whatever. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest complex in the world. And each one of them is just so well thought out and so well done, as they've been talking about already. It's just amazing. And Tony himself is just a great guy. He'll get out of your way. And then if you know, and let you go do your work, he's not going to be hanging in, trying to hang out with the stars and stuff. But all of a sudden, when you kind of would like to see him, there he is. You know, he's just great.
And he has great wines. I got to attest to that.
Oh, my word. The meals, the stories. I mean, and that was, I think to add to what we were so pleasantly surprised by with this place, was the creativity never stopped. We didn't have to leave and go back to our normal lives and then try to find it again and see, how am I going to feel 5 days or a month from now when I get pulled back into the studio? It was just, the comfort level just existed in everything, but the conversations, it felt really special, but it didn't feel forced at all. It was very comfortable. Sit down, break bread, open some bottles of wine, and just be in and amongst it was, I think, quite a treat for us. Yeah.
You're right. No, it's not forced at all. And it's just there. It's just, you wouldn't even know that it's been designed, because it just seems like it ought to be. And it is. And to get back a little bit to what you're talking about of recording, I decided, and I've gone to this over the last, well, before the pandemic, I'd started it, and then there were 2 years of nothing, and now then starting back, but of not using headphones to track, not being a drummer in a drum booth and the bass player in a bass booth and walls in between. And especially when you have a lovely big space room you can do anything with, like the studio we were in, just set up people like they would rehearse or like they would be on stage.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can get what they call bleed from one instrument into a microphone of another instrument, but you can mitigate that, and bleed is not necessarily your enemy anyway. Sometimes it's your friend. So if you just know how to do that, how to baffle things off a little bit, but not too much, and people just looking at each other, their eyes are all locked together, and people just, after they go through a song or two, it's a little odd to people at first, I found, maybe not to you guys as much, but I've had bands that go, oh, we've always had headphones. I've always controlled my own volume, whatever. I can get more me in the headphones. But after 2 or 3 times of running through a song, you just feel this, of people playing together, which is what it's all about, is it not? A musicianship, a band.
It truly is. And I know when we did our album in Queen City Studios back in mid-70s, this is in Cincinnati, and that the way of doing it back in the analog days was you'd stand around one mic, and there's a nice Neumann mic sitting there or hanging there, and the 3 or 4 of us are standing around it, blending together, and which is what you're used to doing when you're doing a live performance anyway. And and if you hear yourself coming through a little strong, you can back off from it, just like you would do, live with a microphone. So there's a lot of positive results of what Terry's talking about and doing stuff this way, and it also enables you guys to feel more at home, because you're doing more like what you're used to doing when you're performing live.
That's the whole point. And I'm not saying that we're recording on a wire recorder, we're going all the way back.
No.
Of course, we use modern digital techniques and overdubbing and all sorts of techniques to get there. But I'm talking about what is sort of the crux of the matter, the basis, which is bass, drums, guitars, and a guide vocal showing people, making sure everybody knows where they are in the song. Anyway, that's a bit technical to some people perhaps, but I found it a great way to record, and it worked with them extremely well, and they loved it too.
That's great.
Well, and it's not a luxury that we always have. I mean, there's obviously a million wonderful albums that came out of people sitting in isolation booths or sitting in basements and all of that. So we're not speaking to that ill. It's more of just because we had the opportunity to be in that amazing large live room. I remember you saying to us, Terry, you're like, I want you to play the way you spend 90% of your time, is either on a stage or standing in a room looking at each other and actually feeling and working off of each other. And that, because Big Blue was that kind of a room, we got in there and we're like, man, we could play basketball. We could have put a basketball court in here. I mean, it was
it's big.
It's enormous and it's gorgeous. And every inch of it was thought out. The sound baffling that they had throughout the whole room. It was just such a live, electric room that when he said to us that we were going to have that opportunity, and they rolled out all these baffles, and we were baffled.
I like that.
Okay, that's it for Cory. Thank you.
Yeah, just shut the
Anyway.
mic off. You can cut
He's going to be here all week, right?
Yeah. No. Anyway, it was it all just kind of naturally came together. I mean, back to what Erik was saying about how the songs, when they were being written and we were learning them at first, they had these classic feelings to them, but it wasn't purposeful that we were like, let's make it do that. It just kind of had that vibe. And so we let it go that direction. And then with the opportunity to go to a place like Sonic Ranch, and they had every amazing old vintage amp that you could ever imagine wanting to use at your disposal. The piano, the B3 that Terry was using, and all the amps that I have pictures of all of them, and I look at them very fondly, because they're just amazing old equipment, but it was all taken care of perfectly. So if you turned on the amp, it worked. Everything. I mean, I was playing through amps from the 50s and 60s, and it was like these songs already kind of had that vibe, and then we got to use that equipment. And I really think that once it was mixed and mastered, the end product really showed that vintage feel. It existed, and it wasn't forced. It just happened naturally.
So speaking of Big Blue, at this juncture, I'm going to put in a little clip here of Terry and I doing a walkthrough with a couple other guys of Big Blue. Let me follow him real quick.
Yeah, we did that a few days ago. It's gigantic. It would look real nice and neat when we started, but it always gets trashed.
Yeah, I didn't know you played piano.
Yeah, I play a lot of stuff, but not great.
But you do.
Do what you got to do. Yeah, drum kit in there.
And this is just one of their places.
They've got 8 studios.
Yeah.
We actually walked into a little studio because we thought that's where it was.
Next door?
Yeah.
Down further down the road.
Oh, yeah. There's 8 of them.
Yeah. There was a band in there, and they're like, oh, no, you got to go to the big one. It's way over there.
They just finished this one, last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
I heard Cory was here recording. Somebody was saying
they get a lot of people now. It's the biggest studio complex in the world now.
Wow.
It's so good. I'm just so glad it's here. This is what I did my whole life.
Right.
But if this wasn't here, what do I do? They want to build one.
And now you don't have to go too far.
No, it's not too bad. About 50 miles.
Yeah.
But he spent millions on this place getting it done. Jeez.
Who owns it?
Tony Ranchich. The pecan trees that are everywhere, he's got a pecan ranch, the biggest in the world. Yeah. And they make probably millions of dollars.
That's where he makes his money. He doesn't make the money on this.
You can't make money on this.
He does this because he loves it.
You have to love the music and want to support it, and he does. And a lot of the artworks, some of these are posters, but a lot of the artworks on the walls are original Picassos and Monets and Salvador Dali's.
Oh, there's one back there from Boyd Elder, which was the album cover for one of the Eagles albums.
Oh, that's the one?
Boyd Elder, yeah. He's a friend of mine that passed away a couple of years ago. Yeah, he and his brother are both died now.
Here, right?
He was from Van Horn. Actually Marfa, in Valentine area. He did several of them that look along that line that were Eagles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't really stopped and looked at it.
No kidding.
That's the original then.
Yeah.
That's the original.
That's the original.
Yeah, in the light here, it's actually kind of hard to see it all. Yeah, he had 2 Eagles covers, right?
Yes, 2.
Yeah.
2 different ones.
And ZZ Top stuff.
ZZ Top. He was an amazing artist.
Yeah. We came in yesterday morning and all these lights on the side were flashing off and on, dimming and flashing. And we didn't know what was going on. And next door there's a studio, and they had one of those uninterruptible power supply things like you put on a computer, and it was burning up and turning all the power off and on.
Really?
So fortunately they got it out of there before anything was ruined.
Wow.
But just to see the lights, yeah.
Hey, Terry. You're getting back into this.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
We did those songs, 12 songs that you heard, 6 days.
That's
from
incredible,
beginning to
man.
end.
You started what, Monday or Tuesday?
Started Sunday, Easter Sunday.
Sunday. Wow.
I can't believe we did that much.
Now, are you going to master everything also?
Yeah, I'll do. I've got weeks of work to do on it at the house.
Okay.
I'll mix it there and master it.
Nice. Speaking of blue, one of my favorite songs on this LP is called Lavender Blues. Talk about that song, guys.
That song was actually one that we had been playing a little bit prior to the pandemic, prior to Cory actually being in the band. It was one of the last songs. Actually, we literally debuted that song on like March 8th. I don't know why I remember that, but March 8th, 2020, we had a show. It was around my birthday time. So we had a birthday show. It was one of our last ones. And we debuted that song just for kicks because we're like, oh, we've been working on this song a little bit. And it was a little bit different of a version, but that one started then. Then, of course, you go through the pandemic and you go through all of that. And then Cory joins and we're kind of revisiting these songs again. And that one was, man, this guy killed it. Like it's funny. You brought up Blowing Smoke. This one's it's a different kind of song, but a very similar kind of approach that we took to it. Was kind of like, okay, you could easily just noodle your way through this thing right now and it'd be amazing. But let's talk about those Gilmour-esque things, or those, the melodies that we can put in here that are in your parts. And we really did, as Cory kind of was alluding to, is he'd record some things in his studio, and then I'd come over and he and I would sit together and actually just dissect it. And, I was kind of cutting and pasting and moving stuff, or I'd hear a little thing and I'd be like, I can't remember which song it was, but I'm like, that riff that you just did there, we're going to do that through the entire song from now on. And so we would do that, but it was perfect because it was like trying to find those hooks that aren't just melodies with vocals or anything. It was like very specific guitar stuff. And Lavender Blues was exactly the same kind of thing. It was like pieces of it that we really want to build. And then this guy's just like, I don't know. He opened up the floodgates of everything he had in his soul to put that stuff out.
Well, I was demoing it, and just one night I was kind of channeling my inner Santana, and I was just like, I'm going to crank up my guitar a certain way. I was getting not to compare myself to that genius, but I was feeling that kind of a vibe with the playing. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at my demo, record all these different ideas. And then Erik will come over and we'll dissect it and we'll peel it all back to something that we can both think that can be meaningful, but not overdone and too, it's a flashy, and I played it for him and he's just like, let's keep it all. He's like, let's just go for it. Let's just have it was all the little volume swells going on within the melody of the vocals and the verses and things like that. And we peeled it back to make sure that it was tasteful. But at first it was supposed to be very subtle, and it was supposed to have this very slow growing underlying lead line that was happening. And once Erik and I got our heads together on it as to how we were going to approach it, all of a sudden it kind of took on its own kind of voice within the melody and the structure of the vocals. It was really cool.
And then bringing it back to the band after that, after we kind of figured some things out and we start rehearsing and then actually playing some shows live and debuting it again. It was just like being able to have those pieces where everybody in the band knows, okay, at this point, we're all going together with the dynamics of it, where you really can start to lean into what everybody else is doing now that we know what he's doing, and we can all follow along and also lift up the things that he's doing. It was a treat, and it's been one of the most fun songs to play live for sure. It's
a blast. And I think of all the songs, this is one that stands out to me as a great example of Erik kind of helping me tame my controlled chaos in my mind of the things that want to happen when you get emotional or you get energetic at your instrument. And it's nice to be able to have found an artist that I can work with, that we can kind of organize some of that controlled chaos and then have it transition down into Sonic Ranch and have us be able to like pipe it together through those huge speakers that we were playing in that control room with Terry. It was magic. It was
like a cloud disguised as a muse, perennial rose under the covers of the lavender blues. Lavender blues, lavender blues, when you ain't got nothing by the ocean, home with a view, want a connection, so you slip off your shoe. One toe in the water, searching for clues. Soon you were drowning in the lavender blues, lavender blues, lavender blues. Stranger than fiction, stranger than true. Lavender blues, sweet lavender blues. When you ain't got nothing, we ain't got nothing to lose. Got teeth like a python, bite marks with a bruise, wrapped all around you. You tighten the screw as you fade into nothing but wait but confused. No, you're not dreaming, it's just a lavender blues, lavender blues, lavender blues. Stranger than fiction, stranger than true. Lavender blues, sweet lavender blues. When you ain't got nothing to lose.
Yeah, cranking up all that unmixed, unmastered tracks, and it was, but still was just like so powerful in that room, and just hearing all that stuff, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was really blown away with, I'm standing there at the board with Terry, and you guys are standing around talking, and we were discussing, or you all were discussing some of the things I think coming out of Lavender Blues mix, and then all of a sudden we got quiet, and I'm hearing this song, and I'm going, my gosh, this is really different. And I'm talking about Andromeda. It was, I'm going, holy crap, this is really cool, you know? And so talk a little bit about this, because I know Terry had some influence on you guys going ahead and doing this. This was not even a song that you were going to be recording. And all of a sudden, you guys hadn't even played this song yet. So talk about that.
No, we hadn't.
Yeah, I don't know if Terry remembers, but it was one that so we would come in, I think it was about 10 o'clock every morning was I think what our plan was to start working. But we would typically, we're sitting around, we have breakfast, we get done with breakfast, and we're just itching to get back to the studio. So we just usually would pop over there as soon as we got done with breakfast and just start messing around and play around and start talking about, oh, what are we going to do today? And I was actually trying to remember this Andromeda song that I had written during the pandemic. I released on a little solo EP. I was doing these Facebook live stream shows, just as a way, the kids weren't at school. Nobody was doing anything or going anywhere. So we're like, okay, we need to have something that we can look forward to every week. So every Wednesday I would do these little concerts and on Facebook, and it was amazing, but I would make my family be involved with it too. And it was a lot of fun, but I did the Andromeda song. I'd written that during that time. And it was, it's pretty much about loneliness and but we're going to get through this kind of a thing. So it was very, very specific to what we were all going through at that time. So I was trying to remember, how do I play that song? Because it was a solo song, and I don't play solo at all. I only play with the band. And so I was trying to remember, what was that? How did I play that song? And I was kind of messing around and singing it a little bit in the studio. I don't remember if you remember that, Terry, but and then Terry kind of walked over, was like, what is that song? And I'm like, oh, it's the song I had written during the pandemic and released it just as this little solo thing. And I think he's like, well, we got to record that. Is that what you remember, Terry?
Yeah, I just you guys were almost always. That's another good thing about Sonic Ranch. You've got it 24 hours. You may not have their assistant engineer and staff there to do everything for you 24 hours, but it's your studio. You walk in 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, whatever you want, stay till 3 in the morning if you want, do whatever you want to do in your incredible space. So they were always there a little before me, just because they wanted to be. And I remember walking in and hearing this coming from the studio room through the open doors. Wow, what is this song? I haven't heard this. And just let it play a little bit. I thought, this has to be recorded. Please let it be one of Erik's songs.
Yeah, so I was like, I did write the song. I said, but nobody else in here has ever heard it or played it. Maybe they've heard it, but they certainly haven't played it. So that was our mission then for the next night. In fact, as you said, you can go in at any time. Paul went in probably at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning to start listening to my version of the drums that I'd done all this electrical digital stuff on my solo version. And he was just kind of cranking through that. Everybody else was like, oh, I guess we got to figure out this song.
Yeah, I think you gave us the chords at like 11 o'clock at night night after we got done with whatever song we were working on that day. And we had some dinner and some nice wine. And then we're like, oh, let's go learn a song that we're going to record tomorrow. It was like, yeah, let's do it.
But what I found is like, this tends to happen in a lot of the studio settings that we do where, you know, I'll get inspired and maybe I'll either write something the night before or have something sitting around. And I've brought it to the band a couple of times where I'll be like, well, hey, we got a little bit of time left in our studio session. It's the end of everything. Do you guys want to try something you've never heard before? And it's kind of like, oh boy. But then they end up being songs that I don't know why, but they end up being some of the most popular. What Best Is Yet to Come is a song that we re-recorded and put it on this song. That was exactly that. On the first time that we did that album, probably 7 years ago, that song was literally the night before I had this idea for a song and we had a little time and we just recorded it. And so, but what it allows us to do is we try to be very prepared. And that was the biggest thing, is that we were trying to do, to come down to make sure that we had everything that we needed done, that we were very much structured. We knew what we were going to be doing. Obviously, we wanted to leave the door open. If there was anything Terry wanted us to try or do differently, we were going to be willing and not be, snobs about anything, but we were going to be prepared on our end. And so we were so prepared that bringing this song then was the total opposite. It was like, okay, guys, let's give it a shot. But it allowed us to that was the most creative we were able to get on a song. And by creative, I mean, we didn't have anything figured out. So the intro was a blast because we're just dinking around with percussion stuff and piano parts. And we knew that there's about a minute-long intro in that song was all completely out of nowhere, just trying to think of the mindset of this song, of two things trying to be so far apart and trying to get closer together. So we actually would discuss, what would that sound like? What is that like? And so there was a lot of that with us working earlier in the studio. And then, we recorded the guts of it. And I think we came back later and did the intro part of it, if I remember right.
Yeah, we had some downtime and we were like, hey, is there a chance that we could possibly throw some kind of spacey intro on this thing? And I don't know if Nick was, there was something, he wasn't feeling well or something like that. So we just had some downtime in the studio and we were plunking around on a piano and kind of came up with this neat little melody. And then I think, I don't know if it was your bass, Terry, was it your Squier Vibe 6, or was that one that was at the studio? It was a Fender or a Squier 6-string baritone guitar.
I don't remember. It may have been, I had brought mine, so it may well have been.
I think I saw it on a stand and I grabbed that thing, and I remember I had an EBO, and so I pulled out an EBO and we started just making noises and having fun. And then we were like, okay, let's come up with a actual focused idea here. And I think with cell phones, we pinged him back and forth. We had recorded with the voice recorder of a cell phone, one of the parts, and then play it and record with another phone. We were like multi-tracking with our cell phones to try to coordinate our ideas, to bring it then into the control room to show it to Terry and be like, does this sound like something we should try? And it is kind of all came together that way, because it was just, we were having fun with it. We didn't have a preconceived idea. So.
like a sea of worry from above. Believe me, there's a subtle breeze with transcendental healing that comes from being loved. How did you get this far, lost among the stars, not knowing where you are? But when you're coming home, you're a distant galaxy, nowhere close to me. But you don't have to be out there on your own, on your own. If I could find your constellation, I'd set my destination for the deep space in your eyes. Yeah, but now I'd build you a great city and point out all the beauty and every sign of life. How did you get this far, lost among the stars, not knowing where you are? But when you're coming home, you're a distant galaxy, nowhere close to me. No, but you don't have to be out there on your own, on your own. There's a black hole coming and you can't turn away. Send out a message and I'll be on my way. There's a black hole coming and you can't turn away. Send out a message and I'll be on my way. How did you get this far, lost among the stars, not knowing where you are? When you're coming home, you're a distant galaxy, you're nowhere close to me. No, but you don't have to be out there on your own. Da 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 da, 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 da 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 da. No, you don't have to be out there on your own, on your own.
A couple of things have popped in my head as all this is talking. A little off of that topic, but it'll lead back to Andromeda. We had originally planned through just my years and years and years of recording bands, knowing how long things usually took. We had 7 days, was it, or 8 days?
7 days, yep.
And we had planned to do 3 to 5 songs. And I was thinking, man, if we really, depending on how well they are prepared and how well they track and whatever, if we get 3 good ones, I'll be happy. If we get 5, wow, won't that be something? Well, we ended up with 15 fully tracked, recorded, overdubbed songs. I could not believe it. So they were super prepared, but Andromeda, they weren't. And I love the fact that it just all, we had enough time because of how good they were doing, how well they had rehearsed and had everything planned, that we had some time. And unfortunately, Nick, the bass player, was a little ill for a while. So we just, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. And just as they said, we just sort of put it together. And it's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I was afraid when I first heard it. Oh God, it's probably a Pink Floyd song, is what he's going to tell me. And he can't record it. So, but it came out kind of like that, you know?
You alluded to how much you like the song, and I got to tell you guys, it's my favorite song too. You know, and I know it's kind of crazy because you weren't even prepared to play that one, and record it, and you killed it, you know. And so I'm going to take some liberty here. Throughout my injection of stuff that Terry's doing at the board and all that, you're going to hear a lot of the raw sound of what he was doing with what they create in the studio and the mixing of that and everything. And that's where the genius of Terry Manning plays into all of this, is that at the end, he has to take all of this stuff, all of the stuff that he and Morrow, his assistant engineer, have put together, and then he takes that into his own studio at his house, and he works on that for hours and hours and hours and hours to fine tune, develop. And that's what makes an album really top flight and top notch. It's not just the great musicians that you all are and great music. Yeah, that is 80% of it, maybe 90, but the rest of it is what Terry does with his magic, and that's what makes him one of the best in the world at what he does. You know?
Certainly, yeah,
absolutely,
cool.
Yeah, and I agree too. It's definitely the type of thing where, as great as it was for us to go down there and record and feel as productive as we were, and as amazing as of an experience it was, our work was done. Terry's barely started yet, because he had to take what was not 3 songs or 5 songs, but 15 songs and do his magic on all, like you said. And that was a lot more work. So yeah, I think it's amazing that that's what people should hear, is what he did to that stuff. It's amazing.
There was a moment there that Terry and I are sitting by ourselves talking at the board, and he looks over at me and he says, "This is going to be a job."
Well, yes, it is a job. And I don't mean to say that I am changing what they did. It's just to reach a certain level of professionalism in recorded music, which happens more and more rarely these days, I must sadly say, in my humble opinion. But to do that, you just have to, I've always thought of it, and Bobby Fuller, the great El Paso rock star, taught me this first. And I've lived and died by this, hopefully mostly lived for many years. When you're producing, you're doing 2 things. You're zooming in with a microscope on every little bit of a song. But if you overdo that and make it sterile, you're messing up. So you've got to do that, but you also have to be a macroscope, if there is such a thing, pull way back and always remember that big picture. So although I'll go into every instrument, every track, every little sound that we recorded to make sure the very best line of a vocal is chosen, or of a guitar lead or something. You make sure you've got the best of the best on there. You don't overdo it. And it's so hard to work for 2 or 3 days on one sound. And I would only do this by myself, because everyone else would be bored stiff. So I'll do that, but then I'll always stop, go eat, go do something, go to the grocery store, anything, go sleep, and then come back and say, now, how did all that 3 days of nonsense I was doing, how does it relate to everything else on the album, to every other instrument? Does it all fit together? Because you want a cohesive unit. And the people who can do that well, and hopefully I'm one of them, there are plenty of others over the years who can, have done great recordings. But if you want to reach that level of professionalism, I think you have to do those things. I don't know what, I'm just yapping here, so let's hear it.
Well, we put a lot of attention towards Andromeda, but rightfully so. It's a well-deserving song. Let's talk about Shy Ones now. Jump into that one a little bit, Erik.
To me, that one is very much a guitar song. Like, I think that's what drives that song. What Cory's doing on Shy Ones is just it's those riffs that. Was that the one that there was a riff that were like that? We need to start.
Yes, it was actually it was fun. Taking it on a little bit of a side note, but a little background for me. My father's a musician, and growing up over the years, we haven't had a lot of projects we've done together. We've always been in bands and stuff, but never together. And I haven't spent a lot of time with him in a studio with me. Certainly with our later stuff in my musical career, if I can call it that. So with this one, I was like, hey, Dad, do you want to come over and you want to sit down and just listen to me track some stuff? I've got some ideas. I've got some demo work I need to do on some songs. So I brought him over to the house, and we're sitting down and we're working through a few songs, and Shy Ones was one of it. And we were at the end of the time that we were working on, and I started messing around with this little riff at the end of the song. And then I turned everything off, and I was like, Dad, hang on. I got to turn it all back on again. Just hang on. And I turned this stuff back on, and I'm like, that riff, that little da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, I was like, that thing. I'm like, let's try that again. Let's try it earlier in the song. And then we tried it. And then I think it was the next day, the next morning, I was like, Erik, we got to listen to this and see what you think. And I think that was the riff that you're like, we need to use that.
It's a perfect hook. It's
through the whole song. And it just was kind of one of those last minute things that just kind of happened organically. And it was fun that my pops was there with me, because I have a lot of respect for his opinion and his musicianship. And so he was sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, this one thing. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, sounds cool to me. But it ended up becoming a pretty focal or a focused point in the song.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. So the lyrically, it's about, I'm a very shy person. I've always been really shy, and I've had to learn how to, as a musician, and especially as a front person, you got to learn how to not be. you gotta do podcasts, and you got to do interviews and things. And so over the years, I've gotten way better at doing this stuff. I'm talking about music, no problem. I can talk to anybody about music. Other things, I'm probably going to be a little more reserved. But this song lyrically was kind of about that. And my dad was a little similar. He had passed away not too long before we went down to the studio. And so I was kind of thinking of him. And, George Harrison is the quiet one, the shy one. There's a little line in there that kind of references him. Just those people that there's a lot going on inside, but you don't know about it. You can't judge other people because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what's going through their head. And some people are very outgoing. Some people are very, very outgoing, and others aren't. So you don't always know what's going on with people. So that was kind of what I was writing with that. But then when we started playing it and doing these riffs, and it was like, oh, this is a rock and roll song. This is so much fun to play live.
Cool. I love it.
Totally.
Choruses,
yeah.
Shy One.
And I want to make sure I can hear Cory's harmony as well, if it's not there already.
I believe it is.
Great.
Give me 1 second. I'll put it in.
Hello.
You don't have to be da 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 da.
Don't do that. Creepy.
Just trying to lighten the mood, man. Just trying to lighten the mood.
All things must pass. The shadow ones only speak when they're spoken to. And the shadow ones want to read what they're going through.
It's the wrong word on the last one, but
Let's do it one more time.
All things must pass. The shadow speak what they're spoken to. The shy ones ought to read what they're going through.
Yep.
Cool.
Nice. Next chorus.
Yep.
Tuning up the tracks, it's a one-way trip. Can't go back. The shy ones only speak what they're spoken to. The shy ones ought to read what they're going through. Yeah.
Last one?
Last one, and then eights on the piano. Okay, here we go.
Shy ones
Right here.
ought to read what they're going through. The shy ones only speak what they're spoken to. The shy ones ought to read what they're going through. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I almost did another yeah. That would have been tragic.
That was good.
That-
That's
that-
the low part, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then kind of I think a similar thing on End of the Line.
Total blast. Yeah, it is neat because it's nothing flashy, it's nothing complicated. It's just those little hooks that kind of stick in your head. And that song's got one of them. And it was already an amazing song, and it didn't need that hook, but once it was there, we couldn't imagine it without it.
Well, and then I start playing it rhythmically and everybody else starts playing it the same. So it just becomes an element that ties everybody together. It's not just him playing it anymore. We all feel that. So we start to change what we do a little bit. And that comes with lots of practice and playing live. And then all of a sudden you get to go to the studio and cement that thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of the songs that you all were talking to all of us about at the board was one that you call Sliver of a Maybe. And you even allude to a thought you had that you were going to maybe plug the El Paso name into that song. Talk about that a little bit, Erik.
Sure. So that song is that's one of the oldest songs that we have that was probably brought in our first album. And we started rehearsing that. It's probably 2012, 2011, something like that. And we started playing the song. We did it live a little bit. And we were much more, like you mentioned, Nick, bass player, was on upright bass. I was on acoustic. When we first started, we weren't even doing full drum kit. Paul was on a cajon drum. And we were just straight acoustic coffee shop type band, folky, Americanas. And that song is perfect for that. It's got that backbeat thing going, and that's a very countrified kind of thing. And but for whatever reason, it ended up not making it past. It didn't make it onto the album, and it sort of just kind of got forgotten about. Fast forward again to the pandemic, and I'm doing these shows where I need songs to play, and I didn't really want to repeat any songs, so I was digging through my whole catalog of everything. And I found that one again. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And there was a line in there because at that time we were looking at recording. I loved going down to Nashville to write with some friends of mine. So, and this might've been before we recorded in Nashville, but there was a whole verse in there. The very last verse was all about going to Nashville and just recording down there and just being in that awesome city. Fast forward to this, and I'm like, guys, I think this song is really fun. I think we should start doing this song again, and try it out. And then, of course, adding Cory to it, and then I'm on electric. It just changed it a little bit. But even when we got down to the studio, as one of the songs that might make the list of songs we would get to if we ever got through past 3 or 4 or 5 songs, that was one of the ones that was like, okay, I like it. But the night before we went to record it, I was like, the lyrics don't make sense. We're talking about Nashville now. That song was written a decade ago practically. And I really knew that I wanted to just tweak that verse, that last verse, to somehow represent what we were doing right now, which was Sonic Ranch and El Paso and desert and all the stuff. So that was the big thing, is how do we bring all that together? So the night before we went to record it, I just wrote a whole new verse that brought in as many elements as I could for Sonic Ranch that maybe people would notice that or wouldn't. It didn't really matter. But to us, I'm like, this is what this song needs to be about now. So yeah, we did that last verse last second. It came time to record it.
just a kid, and I wrote that girl a letter, cause that's what young boys did. It said you and I could talk for hours, yeah, we could take it slow. Don't need to waste your pencil, but don't circle yes or no, just a slither. Oh yeah, oh maybe, yeah, that's all I'm asking for. I fired off a message to a friend who passed away. As if my friend was getting updates from the place his body lay. I don't think it means I'm crazy if I try to reach girls with modern communication and a little touch of hope, just a slither. Oh yeah, oh maybe, yeah, that's all I'm asking for. Headed south to El Paso, gonna stack up all these poems, knock them down like dominoes. We'll find that solid fire that's running through this desert land, and we'll just keep on trucking through the sun and through the sand, just a slither. Oh yeah, oh maybe, yeah, that's all I'm asking for. What at this point I take a hand-me-down miracle of someone's push the open door. That's all I'm asking for. Yeah, that's all I'm asking for.
I love that it's one take. That's good.
It's excellent.
It's
It rocks.
It's good.
I did have a wrong.
Always love that song.
Terry, you're up. I'm going to ask you right now. You know, you have engineered and produced sessions with some of the biggest in the world. You know, at this point of the show, I want to hear what you guys have to say about each other. You know, and this whole experience of working with Mascot Theory. You know, you worked with so many greats. Here's an opportunity for you to say some nice things about these guys.
There's so little I could say that it makes it tough.
They got great beards.
Yeah. That's all bearded.
Yeah, looks good.
Every time you go into a studio, you better be thinking, I'm doing something great. But if not, why the blank are you there? That's the whole point. I'm going in to make something really good. And there are times that you'll do, as everyone who's made hit records has had just as many records that didn't hit. that people didn't know about or forgot about or whatever. Nobody's 100% by a long shot. Well, Mutt Lang, but that doesn't count in his own league. But I go in only on things that I like. I don't have to. I'm at a point in life where I don't have to take a job if I don't like the band. So that's a good thing to start with. I listen to the music. Real songs, real playing, real meaning, real melody, real hooks. Okay, this will work. And so there's just, once you get there, I don't care if I'm sitting with ZZ Top or Led Zeppelin or any of the other great groups that I've worked with. I'm not there as a fanboy. You don't go, oh wow, I'm sitting next to Jimmy Page and we're running the board together. Oh wow. If you think that, you're really not doing your job as a professional. So it's the same with Mascot Theory, with the Mascot Theory, excuse me. So we get in there, and as much as I love and admire and everything that they've done to get us there, it's all working towards a great product. And it's so intense. Every day is just all day long, brain concentrating, thinking through every little thing, working so hard that by the time I get to a bed at night, I couldn't possibly go to a club if there even were one nearby, which there's not. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything but lie down and sleep and let that marinate in the brain. So working with them was just a total joy, because they are so prepared, so professional at everything they do. It's just like, and now that'll sound silly to say in a way, but it's just like being in the studio with Julio Iglesias or Mariah Carey or ZZ Top or Led Zeppelin or Lenny Kravitz or whatever. It's just like it in the sense everyone there is doing their job to perfection as well as they can to get that great product. So I can't say too many wonderful laudatory comments, because it is just part of us all doing the same thing together. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Erik and Cory, your final thoughts, man. How was it? How was your overall experience? Was it everything you expected? Go for it.
I'll let you jump in first, young man.
I mean, the result. I mean, that's the big thing, right? What do you get after the fact? And it's fun to have a vacation. It's fun to go somewhere else and be in a place you've never been before. That's a blast. It's fun to play music. But you're right, Terry. It's a ton of work. It's exhausting. I remember the last night we were chatting a little bit literally after everything was done. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to go to bed, because you have a whole week of nothing but, okay, what's next? And if we get this done, what do we do this day? And that's my brain anyway, all the time. But especially when you're down there and there's people counting on you, and you've got someone like Terry that's working with you, it's like, we need to be on our A game, because he's worked with so many of these people that we are fanboys of, and we weren't part of the process of recording it. So to us, they're just like these mythic beasts of albums and artists that we haven't met before.
But it's just the same, though.
Yeah.
They're people.
That's what's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, it was just like, we need to, we definitely felt some pressure going in, like, okay, guys, we got to make sure we're ready for this, because he's worked with these greats, and we need to not, we're going to represent Wisconsin and all our snow and, and everything that we've got up here, and try to do the best that we can. And, but as Cory alluded to, once we got down there and realized the way we were recording and the way that Terry was like, you guys are a live band, and these songs feel like they're live when you're playing them. Let's record it this way. And we're like, wow, that's way easier than we thought it was going to be. And easier because it was comfortable. Then we're not putting headphones on, and we're playing the way we rehearse. We're playing the way we play live. And it was just so comfortable, exhausting, but super comfortable, that Terry's the reason for that. Because in any other place, it would feel like, really, like that's all we're going to do, because we thought we would all have to like one note at a time everything, or something crazy. You've heard of stories of producers that come in and rip songs apart, and they're like, okay, you bass player, you're playing drums now. And the crazy stuff you hear about the studio. And I think that's more the creative process probably. But we were expecting anything and being ready for anything. And when it became very clear that, oh, wow, we're going to be able to do what we do. Terry's so smart and so gifted with his mic placements on the drums and fewer mics on drums. We're not miking every bolt and screw on the drums so we can hear everything. He's got them very perfectly placed so that you don't need all of that stuff and all the fluff. And so it was just so comfortable that made us be able to do what we do the best that we possibly could. And working with Terry was a dream come true in that magical place of Sonic Ranch. So it was amazing.
Yeah, to that point with speaking about Sonic Ranch, going into it, there's obviously a level of intimidation going into such a large, world-renowned studio. You don't really know how you're going to feel when you get there, and immediately it was just comfortable. You didn't feel like you were out of place at all. Everything was there for you. Everything that you could have needed and anything creatively that you would desire was there. All you had to do was ask somebody for it, and you could have it available. And so it allowed us to just really feel free to be creative. And so going into it, and I think in all, if I could speak for the band, we're very proud of what we did, because we really think that we accomplished far more than what our goal was. And we think it's a wonderful performance. And I think that's I think that Terry's involvement in that was exactly why that happened. Because once we did sit down with him, and we knew his pedigree, we knew that he was coming from a place that we hold in high regard, and he had worked with a lot of our idols. And immediately, the moment we sat down with him, all of that just melted away, and we felt completely equal with him and ready to work together on this project. And I think that was a major part of why we were able to accomplish so much, was that we felt that we had his trust right away, that what we were doing we were doing it right. And we worked through anything that didn't work, and there wasn't a lot of those. It was really just it all came out very comfortable, and those are very, very long days, starting early and ending late, but none of it, we didn't feel tired through any of it, because it was so much fun. It was just a lot of, there's a lot of laughter, I must say, but a lot of sweat too. So we're just very, very proud of what we did. And we can't say enough great things about Terry. It was just such a pleasure to work with you. It was just a blast. It's definitely a dream for us.
Very kind words. Thank you. But it was just as much of an honor to work with you guys. And what you just said is the crux of the matter. Music should be fun. It's a human emotion translation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have fun doing it, the record may not sound fun. So there's just that translating what you feel from your heart into what somebody else feels at the end of the line when they play a record or a download or whatever. That's the whole key. So if you're not having fun, let's not do it.
That's totally it. We had a blast. It was so much fun. The environment, the camaraderie, the friendships that we gained, the people that we met down there. I really think it was something very special, and we're excited to hopefully get to do it again.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for sharing your talents, your love for music, and I want to encourage everybody out there to make sure and get a copy of this great album. It's called Every Sign of Life. It comes out on April 26th. And, I can't say enough about you guys. You guys rocked. And I honestly believe the best is yet to come.
You got it.
Done. Well done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm waiting on the phone call, Terry. Well, just give me a 30-minute headway, all right?
Stumble around like ghosts in the dark, roundabout journeys that end with a start. Storing up karma through deeds to be done, soaking up rays from an indifferent sun. in the distance, obstructed from view. And I'm treading for days like a log on the sea. And I can't save the world, and the world can't save me. But I believe the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Just trying to find the philosopher's stone. But the more I create, well, the less I control. Perpetual light or diamonds and dust, like the shiny new metal that reflects then it rusts. But I believe the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Oh, and I believe the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Watching the shoreline confused and amazed. Amazed, amazed, amazed. And the pebbles are turning their track by the waves. The waves, the waves, the waves. Polished by sand, all shiny and new. All new, all shiny and new. Now the stone is me and the current is you. Yeah. Blessing that stings when it bleeds. You know that power creates and power deceives. I could save this fight, but I won't give up the war. Like a moth to a flame, I come back for more. But I believe the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Oh, and I believe the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come.
Well, good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Good work, everybody.